You are exhausted, but you haven't moved from your couch in 3 hours.
You call yourself lazy. Your family calls you lazy. But science tells a completely different story. Here is the crazy truth. You aren't lazy. Your brain is just burning all your physical calories. The human brain is a massive energy hog. It takes up only 2% of your body weight, but it burns 20% of your daily calories. And that is just when you are relaxed. When you overthink, your brain treats those imaginary scenarios like real physical threats. Your heart rate goes up, cortisol floods your system, and your brain rapidly consumes your body's glucose. You are literally running a mental marathon while sitting completely still. You want to start that business, write that book, or just clean your room. But your brain starts simulating every single way it could go wrong. This is driven by two invisible forces, the fear of failure and, surprisingly, the fear of success. If you fail, your ego gets crushed. If you succeed, your life changes, and that means leaving your comfort zone. So your brain plays a trick on you. It gives you a hit of dopamine just for imagining the result. You feel the reward of doing the work without actually doing it.
This is why perfectionism is the ultimate trap. As long as the idea stays in your head, it remains flawless.
But the moment you take action, it becomes real, and real things have flaws.
Procrastination is not a time management problem, it is an emotion management problem.
You are protecting your identity from the pain of an imperfect reality. So how do we stop the mental drain and start moving? You have to lower the stakes. Stop trying to build a wall and just focus on laying one single brick. Shrink the task until your brain no longer perceives it as a threat. Action creates momentum, and momentum destroys overthinking. The next time you feel frozen, forgive yourself. Take a deep breath, pick the smallest possible step, and just start. You are completely exhausted, but you haven't moved from your couch in 3 hours. Your phone screen is dimming, the sun is going down outside your window, and you have absolutely nothing to show for your entire day. You call yourself lazy. Your friends might joke that you are lazy. Society definitely calls you lazy. But science tells a completely different, almost unbelievable story. Here is the crazy truth. You aren't lazy. Your brain is just burning all your physical calories. Welcome to the hidden trap of overthinking. Think about your brain like the engine of a high-performance supercar. It is relatively small. It takes up only 2% of your total body weight, but it is a massive, relentless energy hog. It burns roughly 20% of your daily calories. And that is just when you are relaxed. That is when you are sleeping, or watching a show, or staring blankly at a wall. But what happens when you start overthinking? Your brain switches into high gear. When you worry, stress, or obsess over a decision, your brain treats those imaginary scenarios like real physical threats. To your nervous system, there's no biological difference between running from a hungry predator in the woods and worrying about failing a business project. Your heart rate goes up, cortisol and adrenaline flood your bloodstream, and your brain rapidly consumes your body's supply of glucose. Glucose is the exact same fuel your muscles use to physically move, so you are literally running a mental marathon while sitting completely still. By the time you finally decide to stand up and do the actual work, your tank is completely empty. Your body feels heavy, your limbs feel incredibly tired. You aren't being lazy, you are biologically depleted. This state of extreme mental drain has a name. It is called analysis paralysis. Let's say you want to start a side hustle, or write a book, or even just clean your incredibly messy room. A normal brain says, okay, let's start by picking up one shirt. An overthinking brain says, wait, if I clean the room, I need to buy new organizers, but I don't have money for organizers. If I spend money, I will be broke. If I'm broke, I will fail. Your mind starts simulating every single way the situation could go wrong.
You create a massive, chaotic tree of negative branches. You are trying to predict the future to keep yourself safe. But predicting the future requires a terrifying amount of computing power. Your mental RAM gets completely maxed out. And just like a computer with too many tabs open, you freeze, you crash. But why do we do this? Why do we self-sabotage so effectively? This paralysis is driven by two invisible forces. The first is the fear of failure. If you try your absolute hardest and you still fail, your ego gets crushed. It hurts deeply to discover that your best wasn't good enough. So your brain protects you from that pain by refusing to start. If you never try, you can never technically fail. But the second force is even more surprising. It is the fear of success. Think about it. If you actually succeed, your entire life changes. People will expect more from you. You will have new, heavy responsibilities. You will have to leave your safe, predictable comfort zone. Success represents the unknown, and the human brain naturally hates the unknown. It would rather be slightly miserable in a familiar situation than take a massive risk on a better but unknown future. To keep you stuck safely in that comfort zone, your brain plays a dirty biological trick on you. It uses dopamine against you. Dopamine is the chemical that motivates us to take action. But here is the glitch in the human system. Your brain releases dopamine just for imagining a successful result. Have you ever spent hours planning a massive project? You bought the expensive notebooks, you watched a dozen tutorials, you told your friends all about your grand vision. You felt amazing, right? You felt highly productive. But you hadn't actually done any real work. You just bought the gym clothes, but you never went to the gym. Your brain gave you the chemical reward of finishing the task just for daydreaming about it. Once you get that dopamine hit, your biological drive to actually execute the task plummets. You feel the satisfaction of doing the work without putting in a single ounce of effort. This is exactly why perfectionism is the ultimate trap. We like to think of perfectionism as a good trait. We think it means we simply have high standards. But perfectionism is just procrastination wearing a fancy suit. As long as your idea stays inside your head, it remains flawless. Your unwritten book is a global bestseller. Your unstarted business is making millions of dollars. Your unsent email is incredibly persuasive. Procrastination is almost never a time management problem. It is an emotion management problem. You are putting off the task because you want to avoid the negative emotions attached to it. You are avoiding frustration, boredom, and the painful sting of an imperfect reality. By doing absolutely nothing, you protect your identity. You get to keep telling yourself, I could be great if I just applied myself. So how do we break out of this exhausting cycle? How do we stop the mental drain and start physically moving forward? You cannot outthink an overthinking problem. More planning will just burn more glucose. More strategizing will just create more anxiety. You have to act, but you have to do it strategically. First, you have to dramatically lower the stakes. You are looking at a giant mountain, and your brain is terrified of the climb. You need to stop trying to build a massive brick wall. Stop looking at the big picture. Stop obsessing over the final outcome. Just focus on laying one single brick. Shrink the task until your brain no longer perceives it as a threat. If working out for an hour feels completely impossible, commit to doing one single push-up. If writing a whole chapter feels overwhelming, commit to writing one single sentence. If cleaning the whole house is too much, just wash one single spoon. It sounds silly. It sounds almost too easy. But that is exactly the point. This strategy bypasses the brain's biological alarm system. It requires almost zero activation energy. Once you do that one push-up or write that one sentence, something magical happens. You break the paralysis. You cross the starting line. Action creates momentum, and momentum destroys overthinking. It is always 10 times harder to start than it is to keep going. Once you're in motion, physics works in your favor. The next time you find yourself frozen on the couch, staring at the ceiling, feeling a heavy wave of guilt, stop. Take a deep breath. Forgive yourself. Acknowledge that your brain is just trying to protect you. You are not a lazy person. You are just temporarily stuck in a mental simulation. But remember, you hold the controller. Stop living in the imaginary future. Bring your focus back to the physical present. Pick the smallest, easiest, most ridiculous step you can possibly take, and just start. Your physical energy will naturally return the exact moment you stop draining it on things that haven't even happened yet. Lay one brick today.